A half score, and 9 months ago our forefather/forefathers wrote into code this, as we know, the cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. His name, Satoshi, well, their name, we're not really certain. Satoshi Nakamoto.
What a great intro.
I know.
That was great.
Very, very. Hello, we're still the CryptoCranks. I'm Jacob.
I'm Landon.
And welcome to episode 2, tentatively called Crypto Grows Up. The first 10 years of cryptocurrency. Should we say bumps?
Yeah.
Bumps and bruises included.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still it's like obviously people are saying like, oh, we're still in the growing years. But it's like there's still a lot that's happened in the first 10 years. So I've got some things to talk about.
Landon will start with the things.
I'm going to start. So we're going to start before Bitcoin. We're going to start with blockchain, because blockchain is what a lot of all of these cryptocurrencies are kind of based on. So blockchain started in 1991. It was like a cryptograph, like meant to have memos that you couldn't go in and change. So that's what it was made for. And then in 2009, and I think January
3rd.
Yeah. Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. And then he posted on this website, he said, I'm going to read his post right now. I developed a new open peer-to-peer e-cash system called Bitcoin. It's completely decentralized with no central system or trusted parties because everything is based on crypto proof instead of trust. Give it a try or take a look at the screenshots and design paper. That was in 2009. That was over 10 years ago. Half score.
Half score, 9 months.
So what do you think, Jacob? What do you think about blockchain?
I think there's a lot to unpack even in those two or three statements that you made there, you know, with Satoshi's post there. I'm assuming that was probably on like Bitcoin Talk or something. I know that he was very heavily involved in Bitcoin Talk.
So, yeah.
And then, so terms, probably some fancy words we should get through.
Let's start with blockchain.
Blockchain, that's a great one. So blockchain literally means a chain of blocks. So,
whoa,
isn't that crazy? Like, dude.
Well, I'm learning already.
Yeah, Lou's writing stuff down super. I mean, we can't even. His hand is going so fast. This is all new to him, apparently.
Yeah, I don't even see it.
I thought he was an expert. Blockchain is like literally, if you wanted to think of it in the simplest way, is a chain of blocks. Meaning, each one of these blocks being every transaction that occurs in the ledger. And then it is all in line in a chain. And it's all validated by nodes. Nodes being anyone who runs the network on their computer. You know, when Bitcoin first started, you ran it on your PC. Mm-hmm. You mined. You know, you validated transactions, which is that action of mining. You hear people who, you know, you hear mining, Bitcoin mining farms, things of this nature. Mm-hmm. You used to be able to do it on your PC. So people running a node on their PC, and that is the blockchain. It's a ledger. You know, if you want to think of it in accounting terms, it's a ledger. And you hear the term also with blockchain. You hear distributed ledger technology. It's kind of a terminology that goes hand in hand with blockchain, and what that means is this idea of it's distributed peer-to-peer, meaning there are many people who are in charge of validating, and that is where it gets its decentralized nature from. It's not like Facebook or Google that have huge data centers with servers and they keep all this information.
So maybe explain how a bank does it, which we're trying to go with fiat money.
Yes.
And then explain how Bitcoin does it. First explain how a bank does it.
So let's, great example, we'll use the good old Federal Reserve System founded back in I don't remember. Was it just after World War One?
Yeah.
By FDR's administration, perhaps? I can't remember. Don't quote me on any of that.
Yeah, no, you can. It's fine. We're all right.
But, so, the Federal Reserve System is a national... It's a national system. There are literally Federal Reserve boards who are in charge, like councils, who are in charge of setting interest rates and how much money they're going to print, the circulation rates. And it's all centralized. It's all governed, all these things.
There's a board of people that control it.
Yes. Whereas Bitcoin, you have developers who are probably like you and me and, every other John Q. average Joe guy who, instead of wearing a suit and tie and making all these big decisions, they work together, possibly anonymously, just out of it's essentially a volunteer deal.
Yeah.
And they work together with other developers to, work on the code.
And create these databases.
Yeah, well, and really just run these nodes. I mean, when you boil Bitcoin down, especially something like Bitcoin, some of these other newer cryptocurrencies, you see more centralized structures, but Bitcoin is really truly that. I'd say it's still one of the pinnacles of the crypto community in its decentralization.
Yeah.
Because of that idea that there is no board, there's no central board, there's no foundation. You hear of the Litecoin Foundation.
Could you make an argument though that with these huge mining operations now happening in maybe Siberia or China, that maybe it's a little less decentralized, because if you own half the Bitcoin, then you kind of control the pricing.
Yeah, a little bit.
You think somebody can make an argument about that?
Oh yeah, and you hear about especially with. You hear a lot about Bitcoin and its capitalization and its volume, its daily volume. Many economists look at that, and many experts and chain analysis look at that, and they go, "Oh, that's not really, So there's some not inflation. It's not the word I want to use. Conflation. But going back to some of those other terms, so we hit blockchain, hit nodes,
peer-to-peer.
Peer-to-peer. So peer-to-peer meaning there is no middleman. And I think that kind of came up in our general introduction to the podcast episode.
Yeah.
That idea that there is no middleman. There's no one who sets an exchange rate. It is all completely, it is
me to
you all the way, instantaneous, near instantaneous. Nowadays, and what I don't want people to think, though, is it's like completely free, because Bitcoin and really almost every single cryptocurrency does have transaction fees, because you want to incentivize the people who are running the network on those nodes. So like those big mining operations, they collect those transaction fees because they are the ones mining the blocks, aka what.
Doing the work.
Yeah. So, and whenever I say mining the blocks, let's just set that in stone. That is interchangeable with transaction, validating transactions, mining, validating, same thing. So, what were some other terms that you talked? So, blockchain, peer-to-peer.
So let's take a quick side route real quick and talk about mining in the beginning.
Okay.
So, when Bitcoin first came out, do I need a supercomputer to mine a Bitcoin? Do I need one of these $500 machines, and I need a super cooler, and I need all this stuff to mine a tenth of a Bitcoin in 7 years? Oh, no,
absolutely. I think that was, you talked about that, and I really look forward to getting way more into that decentralization versus centralization argument in a future episode. But we can touch on it here, is this idea that, when I think a part of Satoshi's vision in the beginning was anybody could do this.
Yeah.
It was very much not just peer-to-peer, but the everyday man could sit down with his computer, just a normal CPU, and help secure the network by validating transactions and mining. And you could easily... we have a MacBook Air, model year late 2015 here to my right, and I could have mined Bitcoin with this in the early days. So that pretty much covers, I would say, and the reason the focus is on Bitcoin here is because it was really the one that catapulted everything into existence. 2009, Bitcoin was it.
So 2009, decentralization, banks. First thing I'm thinking of is that 2008 September crash.
Oh yeah, the Great Recession.
Do you
absolutely.
think that had anything to do with that recession? It still affected people. Like people got kneecapped.
Yeah,
they're still
no,
not
really
recovered. Like
I had a professor in college who, because GM actually went bankrupt essentially because of that recession. I had a professor in college who lost, I would say, a good amount of his retirement money because he had GM stock, and everyone thinks, oh, GM's safe. It's
bigger than God.
Yeah, it's too big to fail kind of deal, and then it fails, and the government has to step in. The United States government has to step in and actually help buy General Motors to keep it afloat. And when they liquidated, that was just one of many horror stories during the recession.
So you think that had a little bit to do with maybe? Do you think Bitcoin was already in production by the time that crash happened?
Oh, I believe this is probably something Satoshi, whoever they were, he, she, they, it might have been a supercomputer.
Oh, I hope it was AI. Oh, I hope it was.
Can you imagine?
Oh, please.
Whoever it was, I think they had been working on this, and I think that was just the final catalyst. Is recession hits, because in the Genesis block there is a batch of text.
You're gonna have to back that up, buddy. Genesis block.
Genesis block. There's another fancy word. So Genesis block is the first transaction that occurs on the ledger. It is that first block in the blockchain, and recorded in the text of the Genesis block, in the code. I want to read this quote. It's actually a headline that Satoshi put in there, and it says, quote, "The Times," so this is I believe the London Times is the newspaper. "The Times, 3rd of January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks," end quote. If you are a literature major or any kind of English language study, particularly with not semantics isn't the word that I want, it's interpretation, critical analysis, you look at that and you go, okay, there's a reason he put that in there. It wasn't just the headline of the day. I mean, because think of how many thousands of headlines there are a day across the world. Oh, yeah. He put that in there particularly.
That was definitely throwing some obvious shade.
Oh yeah, on the banking industry, on the governmental banking complex. You know what I mean?
Personally, I love that kind of shade. I love it when they throw that hardball and they,
the lightning rod of hate.
Yes, it's the we're here. It's the definite he put the problems of banking in the face. It's in the genesis of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
it's here's what the problem is. And then, right before it, the crash, having to bail out the banks. And all of this is just kind of rolling towards Bitcoin being the future, the future of currency.
Yeah.
Fiat slowly
and
out.
When you look at a lot of monetary systems, we'll go into not just Bitcoin's history or crypto's history, but also you look at fiat's history. Fiat is a relatively new invention when you really think about it. Paper money or fiat money, meaning it has no backing, because before fiat, I mean, we're talking early 20th century. There's the gold standard. You had a precious metal standard. You had gold, silver, some form of reserve. It wasn't just the full faith and credit of a government. When you really start digging into that phrase, that literally means nothing. And you'll find I think, more than what you would be comfortable with, economists and financial thinkers that would go, that is a system that was probably doomed to begin with. Or
so what's happening here is the fiat system is our money used to be backed by gold. When you used to go to the bank, you could get gold a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
But now, if you try to go get gold at a bank, they're going to laugh at you. And they're probably going to go tell you to read a modern history book, because that's not how it works anymore.
Exactly.
So how it works is our money is based off of what we say it's worth and what our governments say it's worth. Our governments say $1 is worth $1. So that's what we That's what we say it is. I think President Trump, I think it was in the last couple of weeks, printed billions.
Yeah, there was a headline, and it was like an absurd amount of money that...
I think it was to the equivalent of the current net... I'm losing my word. Of Bitcoin's total net worth at the moment.
Oh, yeah, the capitalization, yeah.
The capitalization of Bitcoin, that's how much was printed in, I think, 72 hours.
What is that? That's like 140 billion or something crazy?
So it was
something crazy like that,
so, usually, what happens when this happens is when you put more of something into an economy, the price goes down.
Yeah.
So we're going to treat money as if it was a thing. So when you put 140 billion apples into
the fruit economy,
apple prices go down because what do you know? There's so many apples.
Saturation, man. Apple saturation.
Oh, that's good. That's a shirt. So
now on CryptoCranks.com.
So because the apples aren't backed by payers
anymore. Exactly.
So when you print $140 billion, which is I guess you could say it's a joking amount to us because the United States it seems like such a small amount of money when you're messing with trillions, when you're messing with tens of trillions. But $140 billion is a lot of money to just print in 72 hours. I didn't even know they could print that much.
I know.
How?
Can you imagine being the guy?
Press?
Yeah, I mean...
You could definitely take a couple bills while it's printing and they would never notice.
I don't know. I hear it's pretty strict. They won't even let you take pennies out of the building. Anyway, so wait, but this leads into a very good point about Bitcoin and its history, is this idea that Bitcoin is a deflationary currency.
Yes. Meaning
there will only be, and actually, when you really dig into the technical aspect of it, there actually won't ever be exactly 21 million. That is the hard-coded cap of what will be distributed, what could be mined, you could say. And it's actually like 20,999,679 or something like that, because it is programmed to stop. I think the last year, we'll mine the last Bitcoin in 2140 no matter what. So there's still like 100 years because it halves every 4 years, and so eventually the reward, the block reward, when that miner, when his super, by then it'll probably be like super quantum computers. When his super quantum ASIC computer,
that he built himself,
in the frigid winter of Siberia.
Oh yes.
When he mines that last, when his computer validates that last mines that last block, and his computer does that little hash, that little equation, figures out that last equation. That's it.
He's a billionaire.
Because by then, like 1/1,000,000th of a Bitcoin will be, who knows, so. But that is also written into, you could say, the history, the code of Bitcoin.
So let's talk about the code.
Yes.
So, the halving. Let's start the halving.
Yes, there's another fancy word. So a halving is literally, in simplest terms, it is the programmed halving of, it is the programmed splitting of the block reward into half. So right now, I'm going to get my numbers right because we're getting our numbers right. The current block reward for Bitcoin every 10 minutes is 12.5 Bitcoin, which, at today's price is what? It's like $8,200 right now or something like that. It's like a yearly salary for most everyday people.
Yeah.
Every 10 minutes, this is what's being produced. Or being mined. Sorry, I don't want to say produced. Too many words. But that is the halving. It happens roughly every 4 years. Currently, we are expecting a halving in May of 2020 for Bitcoin, which many believe will continue because of that deflationary aspect built into the code, into that history of Bitcoin, the very foundation of Bitcoin. It is going to raise the price once more.
Yeah. And like we talked a little bit about, I think we talked about a little bit on our first intro, there are also some Bitcoins, like, sure, 21 million, that's the promised, but we've also lost
millions. Yes.
Millions.
Yes, because of any number of reasons.
Which brings me on to something. At the beginning, somebody had used this currency when it was first invented about in the early years. And this kind of, like I said, going back to our the beginnings. So let's talk about the Silk Road.
Yes. So the Silk Road is, when you talk about Bitcoin and you go up to someone and you ask them, what do you know about Bitcoin? Many people will probably tell you that the only thing they know is that it's used to buy drugs. And that is because at one point in the year, I'd say 2011 to 2012, 2013, you have a very bright, possibly misguided young man named Ross Ulbricht, who decided that he wanted to come up with a private, secure, anonymous trading marketplace. Consider it like the darknet Amazon, but for drugs,
Yeah, how
mostly.
cool that sounds.
Right?
Man. You can imagine, like, Jeff Bezos, get on this. The underground Amazon.
Underground Amazon. So Ross,
Guns, drugs, people.
Mr. Ulbricht decides that he needs to have a medium of exchange. That is, technically, Bitcoin is not anonymous.
Because you can't use credit cards.
Yeah, but obviously that you're gonna. So he decides Bitcoin. This is this new upcoming thing, and
it's as anonymous as it's gonna get.
Yes,
because
in that time,
yes,
when you didn't have all these chain analysis firms and all these like governmental programs who are like, they are able to now many people in this current point where we're at in the lifetime of Bitcoin is we live in a world where now people can, if they're smart enough, these firms and these governments, they can attach your IP address to your wallet, your Bitcoin wallet.
Let me tell you, a lot of people are smart enough because, I mean, how many people do you know that don't use a computer every day?
Yeah.
You're bound to get better at it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people are just so good with computers now that we're talking, one of the main issues of the news right now is AI. And we're almost creating AI.
I like your earlier idea that Satoshi Nakamoto is actually an AI program.
Can we get back to that?
Yeah. we're going to devote a whole episode just to that.
Oh.
Conspiracy theories of Satoshi.
Elon Musk, when he was creating Neuralink back in 2008, before Tesla, he failed. But what he created was this robot called Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah. We're really going to have to flesh that out.
Maybe a book. We can do a book.
Ooh, I like a book. Conspiracy theory book.
Oh, it's not a conspiracy theory.
It's the truth. So Silk Road. Sorry.
Silk Road.
Yeah, that was a rabbit trail. So Silk Road, FBI figures it out. And this is also a lesson for all of you privacy paranoid people. Do not make the Mr. Ulbricht mistake. Mr. Ulbricht used his name in an email address when he was asking questions on Reddit, on a Reddit subforum about, I believe, how to start like an online marketplace. And that is how the FBI found him out. And he is jailed life without parole, I believe, because of all the amount of drug trafficking that occurred on Silk Road. But this is inevitably intertwined in the history of Bitcoin. Is you have this unfortunate, I would say, association with the illegality of Bitcoin. People think Bitcoin is illegal because it was used to do illegal things. But I look at it this way. It's like, you look at it. I was just watching the Amazon original on Amazon Prime, and it's called Patriot, and it's like a black comedy or like a dark humor comedy. And in the second season, there's this episode where their main characters are in Paris, and they're watching this young boy play accordion.
Yeah.
And he's Romanian or something, and then they see like an older man next to him, and they're like, "Oh, look, there's a young boy playing accordion with his dad. That's sweet." Mm-hmm. And one of the older characters goes, "In my travels, I found out that that's not that man's father." Basically, he was like, he was an accordion slave boy. Ooh. And he had to play the accordion for money, and that's what he would do his whole life. So when you think about it, Bitcoin was used like an accordion slave boy by the Silk Road people. against its will.
What an analogy!
I know. That
Did you just come up with?
Yeah, that just came. But no, you look at it and it's obviously when you read Satoshi's white paper meaning that is like what lays out what Bitcoin is about. Foundation. It is the dissertation paper.
That's the stone it's built on.
It is the cornerstone, my friends. And when you read that, nowhere does Satoshi say, I want this to be used illegally. It is the idea that it's going to be hopefully used responsibly. Of course, we live in quite the world where people will find ways to use things illegally as long as they can. But so that's something that always needs dispelled right away. When you're talking about the history of Bitcoin, the history of cryptocurrency, people immediately think, oh, people just use it to get around tax laws and this, that, and the other thing and people do. I mean, you have at a later date, we'll start talking about popular cryptocurrencies, and Monero is another one. Monero is completely private, untraceable. The government hasn't even figued out a way. The United States government hasn't even figured out a way that they have disclosed how to track Monero, and so people immediately associate it with
illegality.
Yeah, because I think there's a fear aspect to it, and I think also people generally just jump to conclusions about things they don't understand. But
well, I think also the thing is that market will always need something. There will always be an illegal market, and they will always need a currency of which to use. So
absolutely.
So I mean, when there is a currency like that, it's bound to be used because, like you said, you could your Bitcoin address not necessarily might not be that private anymore. So if this new currency comes out that is stating that it's private and the government hasn't at least released that they've found a way to crack it yet, then I think that a lot of the black market, the underground, dark Amazon,
darknet Amazon,
will go there.
I think also. No, I think you summed that up fairly well. Yeah. So after Silk Road, let's move into 2011, I believe, is the year Litecoin, which is a very early Bitcoin spinoff.
Yeah.
Comes into being. And when I say altcoin, there's another fancy word. We need to get like a ding whenever there's like a vocabulary word that needs discussed.
That's like a ding or like a bell.
Like vocabulary. So altcoin. Altcoin is any other coin other than Bitcoin, because inevitably every other coin that comes after Bitcoin is based on the principles and ideas of Bitcoin, even if it's not a proof of work concept. And there's another fancy word, proof of work, proof of stake. Even if it's not...
We're going to have to do a vocabulary podcast.
Yeah, I think episode 3 is probably going to have to be like fundamentals and fancy words.
Oh, man, you're just coming up with these off the spot.
Gosh. No, that one, I actually had the fancy words is what I've just been calling vocabulary this whole time. But definitely we're going to have to go into more. Because I feel like this is like a really like 35,000 foot in the air view of everything. So... Oh, sorry.
And it's hard because, if our viewers don't know that, I don't know yet our viewer base if they know a lot about Bitcoin or if they don't. So it's hard to know if how hard do we dig deep? Do we start? What do we start talking about? Do we start talking about economic theory, or do we still go off the base of here's what it all is. You're gonna be rich in 10 years. I promise.
According to our calculations on our whiteboard here. So let's start getting into prices, because I think this is also something that really interests people, is the meteoric rise of Bitcoin. So let's talk about, where are we at? We're in 2011, 2013. Prices around this time are anywhere between $5 to $20.
Oh, that's nice.
Tops, right? That is you're thinking about that and you're like, man, I wish I would have been paying attention in high school.
Yeah.
And
some people were. That's where you get the story of I think it's the $800 million pizza.
Yeah.
I think he had a lot of Bitcoin, and he bought a $10 pizza. And at the time, Bitcoin was just so cheap that when the Bitcoin price was at its highest, I think it was he bought a pizza with the equivalent of about $800 million in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it was $10,000. It was a Papa John's pizza.
Oh.
So at least it was good pizza.
Eh.
Controversial statement.
I mean, it's not that it's bad. Donato's is just so much better.
Oh man, my wife upstairs, if she heard that, she's coming down here with a roller pin, getting ready to knock you out.
Cut my knees
How
off.
dare you talk about Papa John's that way? So $5 to $20, and then 2013 hits. And this is where we get like that first meteoric rise. There was a halving at this point. Remember, every 4 years, so 2009, so 2013 is our first halving. So prices started in 2013 at $13.30,
Yep.
and by the first of the next year, $770.
I'd say that's a slight increase.
Yeah, just I mean, like not just hundreds of. Is it hundreds of percentage points? Hundreds. I mean, easily.
Yeah.
So then you...
Let's talk about 4 years later. Let's talk about the magical year of 2017. Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
yeah.
I'm okay because this kind of gets me excited.
So skipping ahead, obviously along this way, this is when you really start having not so much more adoption. We're not really into like mass adoption stage yet.
It's still pretty underground.
So yeah, it's still...
There's a cult following of people that think it's interesting.
Yes.
That believe in the values.
Oh yeah.
But I think this is before a lot of the people that are day trading.
Day trading, I think
cryptocurrencies.
even probably your early investors, like your early adopters.
Yeah.
This is probably even before most of your early adopters. So 2017.
Oh.
This is the year.
This is it.
This is it.
The Cubs are going to the World Series.
and all of the Chicago Cubs fans are just like, what? So, prices in 2017 started at $998.
998. Keep that number in your head.
And by the first of next year, it was over $13,000.
What did it cap at? 19,000? I think it was 19,000.
All-time high, $19,783.06. US dollars. USD.
I think that was around Christmas, right?
That was December 17th.
Because I remember I was going to some family gatherings and stuff, and family members that I know didn't even know how to turn their computer on and off were talking about buying crypto. And they're like, because it was all over the news at that point, this random currency that people made up is suddenly worth $20,000.
And this wasn't just a phenomenon experienced by Bitcoin. This is Ethereum. This is every single thing. I mean,
how much did Ethereum go up to? Over 1,000?
Oh, it was. I think it was several thousand. If I'm not, I
know Ripple. I think
we're gonna look this up.
I think Ripple went over $3. These are numbers coming off my head. I probably am wrong.
It sounds right. We're gonna run with it.
Okay.
So
let's just make up some numbers.
I mean, we know what we're talking about.
Facts are theoretical.
We live in a post-truth world. So this is also the time when China, also very big, I would say a very big point in Bitcoin's history at this point is China bans trading in Bitcoin in September of 2017. And
September of 2017. So right at that starting of the what you would call the bull.
Oh, the bull ran through the streets of where do they do the running of the bulls? It's a city in Spain, right? Is it
Rome? Is it Rome? I thought it was
No. It's a Spanish city. Is it Castile or I don't.
I didn't.
Wherever they do the running of the bulls, the bull got away, man, and it did not just run through that city streets; it ran through the city streets of the world. I mean,
it ran straight into the
sun, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better description. It kind of went. I'm missing my metaphor. The guy who flew into the sun.
Oh, Icarus.
Yeah, he kind of Icarus.
And then, just like Icarus, that bull, its wings got singed, and
clipped off to where it is now.
Oh yeah, well, and interestingly enough, if you were a first mover at that point, or not a first mover, if you adopted in 2017 as it started rising, you actually now would be sitting at a 70% loss in your investment because so December 2017 hits its all-time high, then all the way through 2018 just continues to drop.
think it dropped to a little bit under.
It was $3,000.
3,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
So by December of 2018, it was $3,000 again, and then overall, from its all-time high, went down 81%. So
what a tragic look, especially for people that I know. A lot of people bought into it after seeing that crazy go. And then the thing with the Bitcoin market is, and I know a lot of people know this, it fluctuates like crazy.
Oh, by the second.
If you measure your heart rate when you see it jump $500 in a minute, like this is like you don't have to work out because it's its own workout.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean your cardio is done right there.
So these people that were buying in when it was at 19,000, thinking, "Oh, sweet, here's my retirement,"
and
now they're seeing an 80% loss.
Yes, 80. And the reason we have to talk about this is because this is where rumors of adoption started dying. You know, people were, oh my gosh, it's happening. That we're gonna have adoption. You know, it wasn't just at that point. Then it was getting the attention of you know, like you said, mass media. Mm-hmm. You know, people are talking about it all over Facebook and the news, and
some were trying to deny it. That's the important thing to do.
Yes.
Some people were really trying to push it off.
We're talking about you, Warren Buffett,
and the same people that were seemingly trying to push it off as nothing now are very much adopting it in their own way.
And seeing that, and you look at that. So, you know, 2017, 2018 comes and goes. What they call the crypto winter sets in. I just feel like that's another way to reference Game of Thrones at this point.
Have you not seen it?
I have not. I caught one episode once and I was like, I'm so lost in the whole game for the throne. You know what I mean?
That last season really brought it down.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. Okay, so this is not a Game of Thrones podcast.
Crypto winter.
So crypto winter sets in. 2018 is just a terrible year. Everyone's down on it. Everyone's saying, "Oh, there's no way there's going to be adoption now." Pretty much, people just like jumped overboard the moment they saw this tiny little like air hole in the top of the boat, and not actually in the water, like what holds the ballast part of the boat. Mm-hmm. And they freaked out, and so people jumped ship. And it wasn't until really the beginning of 2019 of this current year that we started to see another increase, but not just another increase. This is when the adoption started. I think during the crypto winter, I think a lot of people started reevaluating their ideas about cryptocurrency, and maybe they started listening to podcasts like this, mm-hmm. and got educated by people who know what they're talking about. Wink,
not
wink.
Like us.
Not like us. And I think they realized, because this is where you start getting like the CEO of Chase Bank. I can never remember his name. Jamie Dimon. Went back in like 2017. He's on Warren Buffett's side.
Rat poison.
Saying rat poison. You know, it's the tulip craze. You know, it's not going to amount to anything. And now Chase Bank is actually in the process of developing a blockchain-based transaction settlement system to be able to make bank-to-bank transfers and things at basically instantaneous speeds. All because probably during crypto winter they sat down with their blankets, their Bitcoin blankets, and they go, oh wow, it's freezing, but this could work. Mm-hmm. This could keep us warm.
I think people are getting a more realistic look at it.
Yeah.
Instead of that economic boom and get rich quick, mm-hmm. it's let's see what could actually happen if this is adopted.
Well, and when you study, I think studying economics and finance, things go through cycles like this. You go through boom and bust cycles. You look at like a company like Apple. Mm-hmm. Apple had a huge boom. Then things seemingly trailed off until the iPhone hit, and then another meteoric rise, and now we're in this maybe a bust cycle, maybe we're waiting for the next boom. Amazon, same thing. Jeff Bezos is he's quoted with saying Amazon may die in the next 10 years. You know, and everyone looks at him and goes, "What are you talking about?" And he's saying this is how companies come and go. You know, things happen. And so I think people started to realize that Bitcoin was maturing. It wasn't that, you know, accordion slave boy anymore. It was
accordion slave man.
See, yeah, he got his freedom. Silk Road doesn't own him anymore. So you start to see now our current, you know, we've gone 10 years in, how long has this been? Oh my gosh, it's only been 40 minutes? It felt like 4 minutes. So in 40 minutes, we've gone through 10 years, very, very 35,000 feet in the air view of 10 years of Bitcoin cryptocurrency. And there's so many other ways you can study the history of cryptocurrency. You could go all the way back to the 80s when you started seeing more of, like you said, that blockchain idea.
Blockchain, you can see like when did Ethereum start coming into play, because also when you create something like Bitcoin and then you have a competitor's things start to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just altcoins in general, there's so many altcoins now.
Yes.
There's so many different reasons. And there's a lot of factors that go into what's happening now that it's a lot to take in.
It is. It really is. I think crypto he's grown up. You know, he's really...
He's got some hair on his chest.
He does. And I think it's probably all that accordion playing, really, when you think about it.
His back's straight. He'd probably do like 30 pull-ups.
Oh, easily. So I think, I don't know, I think I've covered everything that I want to...
I think this is a good place to wrap up.
Absolutely.
My name's Landon.
I'm Jacob.
And thanks for watching.